Hello and welcome to this episode of Frozen Telescope. I'm just kidding, of course. It's about 22 degrees out right now. For those of you outside the United States, that sounds pretty comfortable. For those of us here in the United States, we are pretty cold, actually. We're having an ice storm. So there's no heater in the workshop here, so it's pretty cold. I'll be making this video in little sections so I can run back in and get warm. In this video, we are going to fix everything there is to do with the top ring of the telescope. This encompasses a lot of the important parts. We have the Crayford Focuser, which is not acting right. We have the Telrad, which, according to the comment section, is a favorite among those that are watching. We have a possible red dot finder. Let's open this up. I'm going to take the dust cover off. There is a giant mirror. Okay, I have this basically this dust cover over here. There's a giant secondary mirror. Now, one of the first things I like to do whenever I buy a used Dobsonian telescope is I go to these set screws here that set the secondary mirror collimation, and I replace them with screws that have knurled thumb ends on them, thumb heads on. There's only one problem. The distance between the dust cover and this block here is so small that there are really no thumb screws that'll fit. So I'm kind of stuck with just using the set screws that this came with, and I'll just have to deal with that. Now, I think the first thing that we're going to have to deal with is, let's take a look at this Telrad, okay? All right. So the Telrad has a quick release. And if you've never seen a Telrad, it's a pretty cool device. It's like a heads-up display or a HUD that you might see on modern-day cars or fighter aircraft. And so you don't look at it this way. You look at it this way. There's slanted glass. There's actually a target, a red target. Now I'm going to turn it on here so you can see. All right, it has variable brightness. You see that? Okay, so what you want to do is, once you get this all aligned with these three screws here, then you'll be able to point your telescope at anything, and you'll see this red target that's basically focused off into infinity. Okay, so that's basically how it works. It works like a red dot finder, except instead of a dot, it's a target, right? And that target is sized appropriately. I guess the small circle on the inside is supposed to surround a full moon, so and it's pretty handy. One of the advantages of the Telrad is that you can do what's called star hopping. Now, what that means is if you happen to have a book or a map of the stars, and it tells you basically how many degrees there are between the things in the sky, you can use that little target symbol to actually measure how far you're jumping when you move this across the sky. The only problem is, here in town, I see so few stars because our light pollution is Bortle 8. That is a serious problem. So that's why I often just put a red dot finder. This works, actually, for me, this works better than the Telrad. But in this case, we're going to attach both. This originally, if you can believe it, came with a red dot finder. And there are still two holes here for the mount. It mounts on one of these little dovetail shoes. We're going to reattach that, but we're also going to move the Telrad finder over a little bit, and we're going to reattach it. And we might have to modify it, though, because it's actually too long to go on this particular ring, and it's bowing out. So let's get to work on this. So here's the quick attachment piece, and it's just held on with the screw, and there's a nut on the inside. It's pretty loose, actually. Now you can see the distance is longer than the distance between this lower shelf and this upper shelf. So I'm going to need to trim some of this off. So let me mark it. And let me see if I can find something that'll mark it that I can see. It's black plastic. So I'm going to have to trim about, well, not much actually. Not much. Just about that much probably. And in the meantime, let's attach the foot from the red dot finder. All right. So we want the red dot finder to be pointing that way. It's got a little clip on the back. Slides right there. Like so. Now the holes are already there, so it's just a matter of taking these nuts off. Putting this on. There's one. There's two. Get that on there. Get nice and snug. The red dot finder should just go right there. We'll tighten this down. All right, now it's back to stock. We have a red dot finder back on the head of the telescope. We are going to have to trim part of this off so it'll fit above this ring. And I'm going to cut that out. Okay, so we're going to cut this now. Okay, that should do the trick. Let's make sure that it still works, even though I've trimmed off this portion. There, nice and good tight fit. It'll no longer be bowed up like it was. It'll be perfectly aligned with the axis of the telescope. That means that I'll probably have to adjust these because this was, previously it was bowed up. So, well, that should be good. So I'm going to take this off and we're going to use this as a template to drill holes in the top of that ring around the top of the telescope. So the question is, where do we want to put this? It was right here. You can see here's one of the former mount screws. Do we want to put it right next to the red dot? Like right here? We could do that, I guess. Like that. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So I discovered a problem, and this is probably what the original owner found too. If I put the Telrad right here, the back of the Telrad bumps into the strut assembly that comes up. So I'm going to have to put the Telrad back here and move the red dot finder right there. So that's just a quick switch. So let's go ahead and put the Telrad back on. We might need to drill new holes though, because I've since adjusted it. Or not, actually. The holes are fine. And now it doesn't, but well, not about that this way. Oh, there we go. Now it doesn't blow up. That's perfect. Okay. A little washer. These screws are a little bit long, but fortunately these telescopes have about an inch of space around the outside edge. I'll probably end up painting these screws black, just to get it. I like everything on the light path to be black if possible. All right. See if we can get that. No, you can't really set this flat. It sits on the collimation screws of the Telrad. Well, we'll have to live with that. I'll just have to remove the Telrad when I'm done with it. Okay. So now we need to put the red dot on here. And I think, anywhere around here is fine. Close to the Telrad is probably good. Boy, I wonder if I should put it over here. That would be a really tight fit. I don't like that. Let's put it right about here. Right about there. Pretty close to the Telrad.
There, that left marks. Now let's drill. Okay. And that makes me, I don't like it to slide on the Telrad. One down, 2 to go. Oh, shoot. That did pretty good. Let me dust this off a little bit. I don't want any metal shards to be near my telescope optics. Now, as you can see, there's a little bit of shrapnel there. So I'm gonna take that off with another little trick that I use. And that trick is just a bigger drill bit. All right, so let's go ahead and put that dovetail shoe back on. Hopefully those are big enough for these screws. I think they are. 1, 2. Okay. All right, that's in there pretty tight. Let's put our Telrad on. Now, what's kind of interesting is this Telrad has these 3 Velcro patches on. There's 3 on this side and 3 on that side. I don't know what they are. If you know what these are, please let me know in the comments down below. But there we go. Belt and suspenders, right? Belt and suspenders. We've got a nice Telrad, we've got a red dot finder. We should be able to find anything we want with this. Awesome. I guess next up we will take a look at the Crayford Focuser and wonder why it's super loose no matter what we do to these screws. Okay, I'm gonna go warm up. By the way, which one do you think will work better for me, the Telrad or the red dot finder? Leave your guess down in the comments below. To work on the Crayford Focuser, I'm actually going to remove it from the tube. Looks like it's a pretty tight fit. Oh, shoot. Okay. All right, so here's a standard Crayford Focuser. This little back plate is held on with 4 corner screws. There's a tightness set screw in the middle, and then here's a lock screw that prevents this from moving at all. This is the one that came off the giant 14-inch. This is a dual speed Crayford Focuser. It has these large knobs, and as you can see, this one's spinning really fast. This is the fine tuning knob. They're pretty darn slick. There's only one problem. It's pretty loose, and there's like a whole zoo of screws back here. And I've never actually taken one of these apart, so we're going to do a little bit of exploratory surgery on this dual speed Crayford Focuser. First of all, let's get rid of this sock. All right, so this has one tightening screw, and this has one in the same spot. Let's see if that prevents the sliding. Let's see. That's pretty tight. Does that fix it? No. No, that didn't do it. Let's see what this guy. I don't know what this is. It didn't. I don't know what that is. Well, I'm assuming these 4 corner screws are going to remove the whole thing. So let's go ahead and see if this takes it. Oh, yeah. Let's take these 4. I'm going to move this guy over. This keeps keeps falling. Let's take these out. Now, one thing is interesting. This has an extender on it, as opposed to this one, which has, there's actually, there's an adapter in there. So get that out. This has a really short 2-inch tightener. This has a long one. This originally came with one like that. If you know a good place to get these, let me know. I'm trying to return this to stock. Of course, I've already tinkered with it with that massive dolly, and it now has the belt and suspenders red dot finder and the Telrad. And here we are on the last one. I'm using a metric Allen wrench here. Okay, so, and not quite yet. Okay, here we go. If you haven't seen my Crayford Focuser video, I go into detail about how these work. I'll talk about it here in just a second. Okay, so it's got these little, so the 4 tightening screws have these little O-rings. I don't know if you can see it. They're little smushed O-rings in there. I'll see if I have some new O-rings that I can put in there. But let's see how this tightening block works. So it doesn't have just a single set screw. It's got these 2 screws on the side that I don't know what they do exactly. Let's pull this one back. First of all, I'm going to take the lock screw out. The lock screw just has this little nylon bit at the end, and it jams against the tube. So this little belt, it has a little, I think it's a little Teflon roller, a little Teflon half bearing. So let's see. Screws. I mean, I don't know the real reason for these 2 screws, because the set screw will push this block against the axle. The axle can float. Well, that's different. The axle floats. Well, yeah, that doesn't do that. That's weird. I wonder, am I going to be lucky? And was it just that it needed to be, these needed to be adjusted properly? Well, I'm going to see if I can find some new O-rings, because those are mighty smashed. And this is kind of neat, right? Somewhere down in here is a mechanism that's really transferring this slow rate, or this high-speed turning rate on the fine-tuning to this. Let's do some exploratory surgery here. But, you know, before we do any exploratory surgery, let's talk about how the Crayford works. It's very simple. There are no gears at all in a Crayford Focuser. They have these 4 bearings on a quarter round plate, 4 bearings, and the tube just slides along those bearings, right? Just like that, very smoothly. And this little axle pushes on the flat spot, right? And it's literally just tension. So as you tension this harder and harder against that, it just gets a better and better grip on that flat spot. Now, I've heard people say that sometimes you have to recondition these, but this feels pretty flat. So, I mean, everything in here, the bearings feel pretty good, pretty smooth. I've never understood why Orion has shiny silver focuser tubes. I'm going to probably paint this flat black if I get a chance to, if the weather gets warm enough. But let's take a look at this and do some exploratory surgery. There's these mysterious holes here, and there's a set screw right here. There's a set screw here too. I'm not sure where to begin. Let's try this one right here. Is that the little one? No, it's going to need an even smaller one. I want to see how this works. That's what I'm doing. Hopefully I won't break it. This, whoop, that came off. This is very heavy. This is like made out of steel. Huh. Okay. We'll just leave that there. Now what's funny is it feels kind of rough. Now that I took that off, this must be like a heavy flywheel that kind of minimizes the roughness of this, because that's really rough when that is off. So one of these had a hole, I thought. This guy. Oh, okay, didn't drop it. That's a little bit lighter. It's aluminum or something. Look! Oh, look at that! Oh, that's the magic. That's where all the magic happens. Okay, so this little guy goes on that shaft, and you have to turn this one a lot to turn the main shaft, this brass bearing, I guess, which is attached to that. There are 3 ball bearings, so there's no gears. There's 3 ball bearings that look to be wedged in there. I'm probably not going to take it that far apart. But that's the super secret to these dual speed Crayford Focusers. Now it's really rough, like something's out of round. It didn't feel like that before when I had the fine tuning knob on. I'm going to go ahead and put this back together, and let's see if we can get this working right. So this went on. Let me see if it had set screw bite marks on it. Actually, they're on here. Oh, there's a flat spot. Oops. Yeah, it's going to go in this flat spot. So line up the set screw with that flat spot and try to tighten that. Oop. See if that's on there. It's pretty good. And I guess this just flops back on there. There's no flat spot for that guy. And it's super smooth. It's weird that rough running went away. All right, so let's put this back on. So there's 2 O-rings there. All right, I'll put these screws back in. Carefully put that back. Shoot. Hopefully that didn't mess it up. Not too bad, but it's going to be down, cranked down pretty good. Okay, so that's okay. That's something's not right. That's super tight. Okay, oops, was I hitting that? Hope I didn't break something. Okay, so let's tighten this guy down. I still don't know what this one does. A little too tight. Still slipping. Oh, that's actually pretty good. No, it's slipping. Where's it slipping? Did I put this on upside down? I put this on upside down. I'm going to flip it over. All right, so that did the trick. I just took this axle and I flipped it over, and that seems to have worked. You can see it goes now, and it doesn't slip or slide. It's looking pretty darn good. I did tighten down the set screw in the middle. I tightened these side screws just a little bit. I'm not sure exactly what these do, but the only thing I can think of is maybe they keep that little plate from twisting. I'm not sure, but it seems to work. I'm still looking for a replacement for this guy, but let me put this back on the telescope head. Oh, can't forget the stop. There. That's not going to go anywhere. See? Okay. All right, let's give this a try. Let's put this back on. It's pretty straightforward. Just try not to drop it, I guess. I'll put one of these in and use that as an anchor. Make sure I got this in right. And put one of these screws on the back. one down here. Put a nut right here. All right, got 2 in there. A little bit finicky when they're this cold. There's not much slop. It's in there pretty tight. Oh, okay. That tightened pretty well then.
Okay, so what do we have? Well, this is the business end of the Orion XX14g GoTo telescope. We've installed a red dot finder. We've fixed the Telrad. We've gotten rid of the flexed base that it uses. We've fixed the Crayford Focuser. It now works very well. I'm excited about that. So I guess this part is all done and it's ready to go. In the next video, I believe we're going to fix the hand controller and maybe attack that azimuth motor. So until then, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Tell me which one of these things is going to work best, all right? So until then, I'm going to go inside and get warm.